Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So it is November. Happy November, everybody, and I cannot believe how fast the year has gone by. The other day was Samhain, and I don't know what you guys did, but Caleb and I went over to the to a couple of friends' houses, and we had a great time as always. Megan and Joe always put up this great it's like a giant spook house outside, and it was just so many decorations, music, blood, gore, guts type of videos that we made, and I always dress up in my plague doctor mask with my robe and everything and just scare the kids. I hide behind things. This year was a little tough. My goggles kept fogging up. Even though I had anti-fog spray with me, I couldn't see half the time. So I was trying to chase around these kids and stuff without being able to see them. And a couple of them I ran into. But, isn't it always fun to scare kids? It is. It really is. We had such a good time and everything, but yeah, it's always there. But oh man, it is Gobble Gobble month. It is time for Turkey Day coming up, and you know what? It's sad because there is a lot of things that I can't eat this Thanksgiving. I can't have gluten. I can't have dairy. There is a lot of stuff that I'm gonna have to alter this Thanksgiving, so it is going to be really weird. I honestly don't know. Usually I go over to my friend Brittany and Andrew's house, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to go over there because everything is gluten and dairy. so if I do, I might have to make my own meal and bring it, but who knows? But yes, what does that mean for us? That means cold weather for you guys and beautiful weather here in sunny South Florida. I know you guys. I know you guys are already complaining that it's 40, 30 degrees up north and stuff. And yes, I don't feel sorry for anybody up north anymore. I love this time of year. Every time I miss up north, when I see all the beautiful up north trees and the green grass, I always remember it's gonna get cold and snowy. And I don't miss that. So all right, guys, as always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We're now on Periscope is now part of Twitter, so go on Twitter, find us at the real_Miss Raina, and sign up, and you can watch us live. And now we are also going to be on DLive. If you guys aren't familiar with DLive is, it's similar to Twitch, but a little bit more free. And we're also on, DTube as well. DTube we have signed up for. But the DLive link is not working for some reason, so I don't know why. We just, we got to fix it. As always, would anything be normal if it just worked right away? I don't think so. So anyways, guys, replays are always at the link below. And if you guys have any questions, as always, email us at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com, and we will help you with whatever we can. So let us get into tonight's show, because tonight we are going to talk about childhood trauma and how it ties into adulthood, because this is a very sensitive topic. This is a very important topic for a lot of us to understand. This is a show that many of us, including myself, have some type of relationship with, because as I've said many times over the show, we look at it and say, you know what, I always tell people our childhood sets us up for how we are going to be into our adulthood. And I know if you guys have watched the show, of course, I have said that many times. Whatever we experience in our childhood has set us up for our insecurities, our needs, our wants, how we're going to react to things, how emotional we're going to be, how distant we're going to be, because it's all about the fundamentals of childhood. Because yes, as children, we have basic needs, don't we? We have basic needs that we want I mean, mean, we want to be loved. We want to be hugged. We want to be we want to feel special. We want our moms and dads, to take care of us properly. And we want to feel safe. That's the key word, right? We want to feel safe. And for many of us who have experienced some childhood trauma, maybe through, maybe our parents weren't the parents we wanted them to be. Maybe we have had rough upbringings. Maybe we have had some type of traumatic event like a car accident or surgery or a death in the family. And it really shook us to the core. And it changed our perspective of the way the world works. And why? Because, hey, we're kids. What do we know, right? What is it that we know? We don't know anything. We just know mommy and daddy are superheroes and they're supposed to do everything for us, right? And as we get older, that changes. We realize that life isn't so black and white, that there's a huge gray in the middle. And everything is really kind of gray, isn't it? Because it all flows back and forth. And that's really what we have to look at. And that's why it is so important for us to understand this show that we're going to do tonight. Because when we look at trauma, well, what is trauma? What is that? Well, by definition, by the National Institute of Mental Health, it is an experience of an event as a child. Plain and simple, right? An experience that we have by an event of a child. It could be emotionally painful. It could be distressful, and often results in some type of physical, mental, and emotional type of effect. And this is something that we all have to understand, because when we look at something as simple as this definition and experiences as a child that can be emotionally painful or distressful, often resulting in some type of mental and emotional or physical effect, this changes our perspective and understanding who we are. And so what is the medical definition? Because you guys know I'm a nerd. I'm always going to throw some medical stuff in there. But what is the definition of this? And so it's basically by the National Childhood Traumatic Stress Network says that it's a physiological response. So children and families experience some type of pain, injury, serious illness, medical procedures, as I said, something invasive, frightening treatment, something that can happen to us, something that happens most of the time unexpectedly that our ego and our brain is not able to comprehend. And so we transfer it into fight or flight mode. And these type of things can be something as a one-time deal. It could happen a constant throughout your childhood, and it changes our perspective and the way we view Earth. Or I should say life, not Earth, life. Yes, Earth too. Oh, I love to be back. Oh, I miss you guys so much, But yes, so if we look at these ideas and we say, okay, well, there's a lot of people affected by that. I've been affected by my childhood. I'm sure you guys have been affected by your childhood. And, some interesting stats. And it's funny because stats, when we look up stats, they always seem to be far away. There's never it's hard to get most recent stats because a lot of times the medical industries aren't really too concerned with a lot of stats. They'll take a study here and there, and one of the most recent studies that we found was in 2013. It's 47.8, which equates to 34.8 million of all children in the U.S. have experienced at least one type of serious traumatic event in their childhood. And this is done by a study. So if you want to look that up, it's by a study in 2013. We've also had another one by 2015 that over 2/3 of all children by the age of 16 have experienced at least one traumatic event. That's 1 out of 5 high school students have experienced some type of event, especially like bullying. And now we have the internet. We're all over here. I'm lit up over here. I have so many EMFs going through me. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, Twitch, all this stuff, and cyberbullying. Now bullying has extended into cyberbullying, and it has grown to there. And at least one out of 4 people in high school experience at least one physical fight in their life. I know when I grew up, it was a constant fight. I don't care where I was outside of school, I was constantly in fights, and inside of school, I was constantly in fights. And it wasn't that I was picking the fights, it was that people were coming after me. Why? Because I was skinny and scrawny. So the bigger kids who are having a rough time in their life, maybe have abusive parents or whatever, they tend to take it out on us because they don't know how to deal with it. It's displacement. They don't know how to deal with their anger. They don't know how to deal with and process what there is because their mind is immature. And so what they do is they come after us. Hey, I'm going to pick on you because you're weaker, just like my parents or just like older people have picked on me because I was weaker at one point. And this is something that we have to change. This is something that I see that's going out even on Nickelodeon and all sorts of things, that we have to change at least one of these things as far as bullying, because bullying can be in many forms of our ideals. It doesn't have to be in school. It can be outside of school. It doesn't have to be just on Facebook. It can be on anything. I know that even doing these shows, I get people on Twitch and Twitter and stuff like that that'll make little comments because I'm not the most feminine looking girl and stuff like that. And hey, I'm sporty. I like the way I am. I like who I am. And if people are going to judge me by the way I look and not listen to the show because, because I'm not some pretty dolled up female, well, hey, that's okay. But I still even get bullied even today. And this is something that really needs to change, because bullying, believe it or not, has a huge effect on the way we are, and it caused me great stress. It caused me a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. I used to have panic attacks as early as 4th and 5th grade. And so, how old are we in 4th or 5th grade? I don't know, Caleb. Do you know how old we are in 4th or 5th grade? Maybe you can figure that out and send me a text. But yeah. And it's true, and it happens as soon. I remember getting into fights as early as kindergarten. And that because that's just the way it was where we grew up, and it was just there. So let's give some examples of, and I want to tell you guys, if you guys are just listening to the show, or you guys are, this is a very sensitive topic. So I want you guys to know there might be some triggers for you guys. If you're triggered easily, I'm going to try to make it as PG as possible. But again, I really have to get into this, because in order for you guys to grow and get past what is going on, it somewhat needs to be faced as well. So what are some examples of trauma in childhood? Well, let's target some of the big ones right away. We're going, okay, so it's 8 to 9 years old, or 8 to 9. I read that's my dyslexia right there. 9 to 10 years old. Caleb put up 9 to 10, and for some reason I saw 8 to 9. But so from 9 to 10 years old by the time you're in 4th grade, and that's young. Well, I mean, think back to when you were that old. I know you thought you were old, but now looking back, look at how young that is. And imagine going through the things we're going through. So molestation and rape, that happens. That is one of the hugest ones that happen besides bullying, and that is a huge one that happens in childhood. And because we are children, we don't understand what is going on. We know this is not right. This is something that should not be taking place. But at the same time, we don't know how to process and handle it. How about physical and emotional abuse? Our parents can be physically and emotionally abusive. Our siblings, how many of us fight with our siblings? How many of us, I know me and my sister, we went at it. We had the typical sibling rivalry. I made fun of her weight at the time. She made fun of my grades because I wasn't the smartest student at the time. So she would call me stupid and egghead, and I would make fun of her weight and everything. And we just went at it. It wasn't until later that I realized that, wow, even though we were just being silly kids, that had an effect on her, and that had an effect on me. I had to heal that. And I actually made it a point to go to my sister a couple times and apologize for the things that I said as a child, because I saw how much it affected my sister's self-confidence about the way she looked. And so we have to remember that physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse happens between siblings. It happens between parents. It happens in every which way. And especially as a child, we don't have the maturity and the brain development to process the ideas that are happening. And so we take everything personally. And that builds up insecurities. We are very lucky this next one, because in America, we don't really have to face war here. Maybe we grow up in a bad area of Chicago or New York or LA or something where there's gangs and violence. Hey, that's pretty close to war, where you're seeing people shoot and beat each other up and drugs sold and gang violence and everything. But in other countries, war can be a huge example of childhood trauma. Watching your buildings and people around you get blown up and everything, it can be very stressful. Parents getting divorced. A lot of people don't think that this is a childhood trauma, but I know many people who have been affected. Think about this: you as a child are looking at who your parents are, and you look at them as superheroes, and then all of a sudden you're seeing them fighting between each other. You're seeing them destroy each other's lives and be mean and nasty, or just fighting all the time, and you start to develop that relationships are terrible. This is something that I don't want, because look at it, if this is the way relationships are, I don't want that. And there are so many of us that have witnessed parents going through a nasty divorce and realizing, well, if that's the way relationships are, or they see that and that's how they treat their partners. And so remember, we take on as children what we perceive. And this is why it's so important for parents, if you're listening, to really watch what you're doing around your kids. Yes, they may be small enough to where you think, they don't really understand what's going on. But you have to be able to understand that they perceive more than you think they do. So another one is growing up in poverty. How about rough neighborhoods, right? Poverty, rough neighborhoods, as we just mentioned, gains, and understanding to where that, hey, there's violence in there. People don't have the means. I know that I grew up in areas where some of my friends had the ideas where there was holes in the ground, like of their floors. Like, we actually had to step over. You could see right through the basement or right through to the next floor. And maybe their AC or heaters didn't work. Their windows were taped up because they were broken, because they don't have the money. That affects you as a child, thinking up that you're always going to live without. And so this becomes the ideas that are growing in our minds that, hey, this sets the foundation for what we are going to perceive. People who grow up without are always chasing money, most of them. They think that money, because yes, is money the most important thing in the world? Absolutely not. But is it important? Yes. In this type of society, a first world society, or any place that is now, every place is growing, and that even in a third world, money is important because it helps us get the things we want. And so yes, should we chase money and hunt it down like a dog, or like a predator going after its prey? No. But that shows, I know a lot of people, great people that have grown up in poverty and rough neighborhoods, and they spend their whole life chasing and hey, look at my BMW, look at that, because their mindset is still immature to understand that, hey, I didn't have this when I was a child, so I'm trying to make up for what I don't have as a child. And as, of course, we talked about bullying, we talked about, we didn't talk about physical incest, but emotional incest as well. So what do we think about emotional incest? What are we talking about, if for those of you who don't understand that? Well, it's when a parent, let's take, for example, like maybe a parent is relying on a child. I know someone that is close to me that their parent, had them because they felt that they weren't loved. And they thought, well, if I have this child, they're going to love me, and they have no choice to stay with me and love me. They're never going to leave me. And they based their whole life on this child. And so they became so overwhelming towards this child that they didn't allow the child to grow. And I've seen this, not just with the one I'm thinking about, but I've seen this many times where parents rely too much on the child to give them what they're looking for, because they themselves didn't get what they're looking for in their life, especially in their childhood. And so all their emotional support and needs are based on this idea of trying to get to this child to give me everything. And this is not healthy. This is not healthy. Parents, if you are listening to this show, I am telling you, do not rely on your child to give you what you're looking for. You need to seek out some type of counseling. You need to seek out some type of help to understand and to understand that you're not helping your child. You're not loving your child to death. What you're doing is you're smothering your child and teaching your child that some very unhealthy habits. You're teaching them there's no boundaries, and the relationship is not healthy. The child cannot take a back seat to the parent's needs. It cannot be done. As adults, people, you are supposed to teach your children and show them love, compassion, and understanding, not fear, not insecurity, and not no boundaries. Because when we do that, we create an idea or a recipe for disaster. We'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back, and if you're just joining us, we are talking about childhood traumas. And it is not fun, is it? If any of us have experienced childhood traumas or are going through something and you have no one to talk about, please, there are hotlines, seek counseling. Speak to your friends, speak to your family, speak to whoever you can, because you have to be able to release this. But what we were talking about was emotional incest. And so as we were saying, the child cannot take a back seat to anything. A lot of times children will also experience, so many of people will experience type of alcoholism, drug addictions for parents, and some very serious medical illnesses. I have friends that have watched their parents literally die of heroin overdoses, and that has changed their mind forever. Some have even gotten into drugs because of that idea. Even though they've watched someone die, it affected them so much that they still chose to do drugs. And some people have become, and so we look at these things and we look at life and we say, okay, well, things are going to happen to us. Things have to happen to us, because in order for us to grow into consciousness and to conscious beings so that we can be who we are, we have to go through these. And I get it. I know a lot of you are going to sit there and say, and we beat ourselves up. We look at it and we think that these traumatic events have changed us forever, and they have, but they are the story that we've become. And we're going to get a little bit into that a little bit later, but they have become our story, and we don't need that to be our story. We need to make up a new story. And believe it or not, it's true. We can be a new story. We can be any story that we want. And that's the great thing. And that's why I want to do the show, because I know if I can do it, I know you guys can do it too. You guys can go through anything as long as you're willing to put in the effort, no matter how scary. Yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, there are going to be lots of tears. There's going to feel like days that you can't get through it. But I promise you, if you put in the work and with people that have the right counseling and helping you and everything, you can get through this. I honestly, I never thought at that one point, I never thought I would. I've actually tried to commit suicide several times in my life because of the challenges that I was facing. I never thought I was going to make it through. I was constantly in depression. And then when I got diagnosed with bipolar, DID, and I had to deal with anxiety. I couldn't go outside of my house. It was just so chaotic. And a lot of it stemmed from my childhood. Of course, there was some stuff that stemmed from my adulthood, but a lot of the stuff that was from my adulthood reinforced what I believed from my childhood. And it was just this vicious cycle of going through. And this is something that we have to look at. This is something that we have to understand, that we're living experiences that are no longer important to us. And they may feel true, they may feel real, because our mind has a way of projecting these images. Like if I sat there and I told you guys, okay, I want you guys to picture a nice juicy apple. And if you want to put, since it's the holiday seasons, if you want to put some caramel over there and some peanuts and stuff, and it's fresh and it's hot, and you bite into it, I bet you your mouth starts salivating. My mouth did. I'm not even doing it, because It tastes good because the brain doesn't understand the difference between reality and past experiences. It just says, okay, as soon as this idea pops into my conscious front, it triggers an emotional response, and then I react accordingly. And so if I keep trying to understand something that's happened in my past over and over and over, well, what's going to happen? I'm going to be stuck in that idea. I'm going to be stuck reliving that situation over and over and over until it just consumes me. And hasn't it, for most of us, consumed us? It has. You are so much stronger than you ever believe, but we have to be able to look at things. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they said, Miss Raina, they said, one of the things that bothered me was when I was younger, I used to get locked in a locker in school, and the kids would shut the door, trap me in there, and kick and bang the door, and it used to cause it has caused me a lot of emotional distress. And of course, you're being locked in a confined space, unable to get out. People are taunting you, beating on that noise rattles. I bet you loud noises, I bet you anything tight and confined will trigger the person going into this idea that, oh my God, I'm having a flashback, because that's what the brain's going to remember. How many of us can hear a song and it triggers that type of an experience that we've had in the past, right? How many of us relate our childhood or a special moment, whether it's exciting or loving or horrifying, and that by something we hear, smell, or touch, right? That is how our brain works. And I felt so bad hearing that story. I thought, wow, for some kids to lock you in a locker and then bang on it loud as and then just keep you in there, that's got to be very traumatic. I couldn't imagine that. Me being claustrophobic and being trapped in there, that's got to be horrifying. And I just felt I felt so terrible. And still today, that affects this person. How about people that have been beaten, starved? I talked to so many people. And first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me in some way, shape, or form and shared some of your experience and talked to me about some things. I really, I show you both sympathy and empathy because I do understand. And I want to thank you guys for being brave enough to tell me these things, especially live on social media where the whole world can see it, and being able to look at things and say, Caleb, I can hear you. And so, hold on one second. And so, And so this type of thing, I want to say thank you guys. So sorry, we had a little bit of an issue with techno, so I couldn't hear. But yeah, and some people are saying, well, I was starved as a child and I was beaten. I was treated like I wasn't good enough to have food, and I was beaten for things. And I know I grew up in somewhat of an abusive environment. My dad was a great person at times, but he also had a temper. And when he lost it, he lost it. And that's just the way things were back then. We thought it was discipline, but now we look at it how abusive it was. And some people even said, dentist. I don't know how many of you. I hate the dentist. I really do. I hate the sound of the. I literally have to, when I go there, I play meditation music, and I literally have to go into a deep meditation because I hate the sound and of the drills and that. But some people, that is a very traumatic experience. I know I had tons of cavities. I always had weak teeth because I always had a calcium issue when I was younger. And so we didn't know about that stuff. So I had all sorts of metal fillings. And so the dental, and so people did that. Some people express that parents leaving, when our parents leave us. Oh my God, that's abandonment issues, right? And I know many of you can relate to this because I know I was fortunate enough to have my parents stay together my entire life until my dad passed away in 2012. But my parent, like I could not imagine. I've had friends that have had their parents leave, and I couldn't imagine watching my mom or dad walk out the door and never seeing them again, or not talking to them. I couldn't imagine what that feels like, or maybe taken away from your parents. I was adopted. What if your parents were drug addicts, or they're very abusive, and you were taken away and put into foster care? I know I was dealing with a case the other day that was like that someone was in foster care because of that. And I was like, I could only understand so much because I was not in that situation. But there are so many times where we look at things and we say, well, what am I to do? I'm a child. And you feel powerless, right? You feel powerless as a child because I can't do anything, because I don't have the information to know what it is I have to do. I don't know what to do. But as a child, we do know. I mean, as an adult, now we have the power. And see, this is the trap, people. This is the trap that you have to understand. As an adult, you have all the power in the world to change this. But your mind hasn't developed that yet. Your mind is still like a child. There's always a bit of the child inside of us that needs to flourish and live and grow. But we have made ourselves believe that we're stuck in that childhood loop of that same trauma repeating itself over and over. And because of that, you fall victim to being the victim in your mind, and you fall victim to being powerless in your mind. It is a slippery slope, and it is 100% illusion that you are powerless, but you're not. And as adults, we suffer from things called like PTSD, and I know one of the reasons why I didn't want to have children when I was younger was because of the things I was going through. And I knew that I did not have the patience for children, and there are some things that I don't. And I look at it and I say, hey, you know what? I did not want to pass down, because as a child, I was angry because, there was just some anger in me. Even as a child, I would just explode for no reason. And then all of a sudden top it off with, all the things that I was experiencing, the trauma and everything, bullying, abusiveness, all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden I grew more angry. And the one thing that I made sure is I always used to say is, I don't want to ever hit a child. I don't ever want to pass down anger or resentment to a child. And so I didn't have children for that very reason. Now it's a completely different situation. But at the time, that's the way I felt because of the physical abuse. And so we look at it, and I know most people, we suffer from anxiety, night terrors. I used to have bad dreams, or nightmares, I should say, because I don't like the word bad, but I used to have nightmares all the time. I hated to go to sleep. I don't know about you guys, if you guys have an issue going to sleep, but it would take me forever to fall asleep because my mind would constantly be going. And then I would finally fall asleep, and I would have nightmares of people trying to kill me, attacking me, falling off a building, whatever it was. And it was terrifying. Then I'd wake up and be like, oh my God. And it was like living a nightmare throughout my day and throughout my life. And because of that, I started to get withdrawn. I know so many of you are loners, and you withdraw from society because you don't trust people, do you? Why should I trust people when they lie, when they cheat, and they hurt you? I can understand that. I can understand why most people are withdrawn in today's society. Hey, if I'm dealing with anxiety, I had things like agoraphobia. If you guys have hard time being around people, even the energetic feeling, and then all of a sudden I don't trust the people around me like you guys, because that's what you develop, right? You develop the idea that I don't trust people because my parents or whoever it was made us realize that people are not to be trusted. And so we withdraw. We're on constant alert. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I know. I grew up when I was younger, before we moved out of the city, my area wasn't the nicest area. And I was in gang activity. I was always looking over my shoulder. Even still to this day, whenever I hear a noise when I'm sleeping, I am up and looking around like I am ready to go rock and roll with somebody. Because it has been ingrained in my mind that someone's out to get you, that something's out to get you, whether they're going to steal from you, whether they're going to abuse you, whether they're going to try to manipulate you, whether they're going to hurt you. They're out to get you. And this is the psychological symptoms of a traumatic mind. Something or someone is out to get you. It's a constant alert. I'm always looking at that. And because we're constantly reenacting it, right? We're constantly replaying the painfulness that we've gone through. And so what does that do to us? If we're constantly on alert and we're constantly having anxiety, we become irritable, right? We have difficulty sleeping, as I just mentioned. I know for a long time, I'm always irritable. Now it's for a different reason because of the medication I'm on, and I'm very irritable. And so I try to like bite my tongue a lot. But back then it was a different type. I was always sitting there because I never trusted people. And because that anger festered inside of me, because I couldn't trust anybody and I didn't sleep well. And I was always reliving these things. I created this monster, this whole illusional monster of how life was. And let me tell you something, it wasn't what it was. I destroyed relationships. I destroyed friendships. I destroyed everything because of that idea. I destroyed everything because of that idea. And so you have to look at it and say, this is what I'm creating by having trauma from my childhood. This is what is going on. It's not reality. And so this is why we start to do it. And the ideas of feeling guilty for things that have happened to us, we need to learn to work on that to resolve this, because guilt is usually run hand in hand with irritability and anger and lack of energy, and that because we feel guilty about things we can't control, because we feel helpless, because we don't understand of what is going on. All of a sudden, this guilty feeling. Well, you're a child. You were a child. You trusted because you knew no better other people around you, and you trusted parents that were supposed to be there for you, or whatever the situation was. And those guilty feelings are actually a sense of feeling hopeless, because I could not control something. So now I feel guilty because I was not able to stand up for myself. That is the adult mind trying to make an understanding of the child's mind inside. And it leads to all sorts of things, people. I don't know how many times, I know most of us who have had childhood trauma are obsessive. Like, I'm OCD, but that's for a different reason, especially when it comes to germs. I don't like touching people's hands and everything, but we become obsessive about these ideas because and compulsive about our behaviors because we're trying to make up for those feelings. Anytime guilt is in our mind, we become obsessive. It's like, I have to go out. Why do you think I told you earlier, when people grow up in a poverty style life when they're a child, they become obsessive or compulsive about making money? Because in their idea, they don't ever want to be in that poverty situation again. They don't ever want to feel that. And so that feeling drives them to be where they're at. And so they'll constantly be, hey, look at my BMW, look at how great and spiffy I look at all my stuff, because that obsessive compulsive behavior is being driven by fear of ever being put in that situation again. And so our relationships, people who have been molested or raped, we are driven by that fear. I mean, so many of us, I had some good friends that have had that happen as a child, and their relationships are affected by it, and they chase relationships, but then they sabotage it and blow it up because they are so afraid of reliving that situation over. But they're searching out for that need to feel loved, that need to feel wanted. It's this vicious cycle. And this is why childhood trauma affects who we are as an adult. And we have to be able to understand what it is we're going towards. This will lead us. I truly believe, and again, I'm just stating this, but this is my work. I truly believe that things like bipolar and depression, anxiety, and PTSD aren't genetic. I believe that they are brought on by experiences, by things we are unresolved in through our experiences and through our emotions. So our mental health and emotional health of bipolar, because I used to have bipolar too. I was highly depressive. I had PTSD, anxiety. I had a laundry list. I even had DID because of my childhood experiences. And when I resolved my childhood trauma and faced everything and realized that these things are no longer hurting me, that I have the power to get over it. My bipolar was resolved. My depression was resolved. My DID went away. It just changed. I am actually an outgoing person once again. And you can ask Caleb, who's sitting right behind that. When we used to go out, he was the one that used to be the social butterfly, and I was the one that would always sit there and just watch people because I didn't trust them. Who are you? What do you I didn't have great experience as a child with people growing up trying to beat me up and get one over and steal from me and that. So I got to watch you. And so I used to watch everybody. And now it's completely different. I am a social butterfly once again. My personality has come back. My sense of humor has come back. Everything has come back. And I don't have any of the things that I have anymore. So this is why I am telling you guys that this is possible for you to get through. We'll be right back from these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back with the third and final part of this show. If you're just joining us, we are talking about childhood trauma and how it affects us as adults. So let's get into why do we go through trauma? Why is it that we go through trauma as people? Well, for the simple reason is it helps us grow. And I know for some of you are like, what? What do you mean it helps us grow? It's destroyed my life, right? Yes, at that moment, because of what we mentioned earlier, yes, it is destroying your life because you are allowing it. But it helps us understand who we are as people. If we do not go through pain and suffering, then we cannot understand at an emotional and mental level the depth of who we are. I feel so much stronger and so much more powerful than I ever did. And I am grateful for everything that has ever happened to me. I am who I am today because everything happened to me in my childhood and my adolescence. If I had a chance, I would go back and thank everybody who has ever mean to me, whoever picked on me, whoever hurt me, even my father after he passed away. We had a one-on-one talk and I was like, look, Dad, and I got it all out. And afterwards, when I came to an understanding, I said, you know what, Dad, thank you for showing me who I needed to be. And that's hard because what do you mean it helps me understand? I was abused. I had this wrong. I need justification. I need this, and that they wronged me, right? They wronged me. And that's the anger. That's the vicious cycle that we were talking about. If you can learn to work through that, it'll help you understand a different perspective of who you are. Who are you? Are you strong enough? Because we're taught to rely on all these things, right? We're taught to rely on a society, a government, a god, a goddess, a universe, the dogs, this, that, whoever. We're taught to rely on everybody but ourselves. Imagine if you could imagine the power and the strength that you could find if you could learn to take your emotional challenges and your mental challenges that you were given, learn to work through them, help you see new perspectives of why you went through it, learn the lessons that you were meant to learn, and take that as power. Feel how powerful that is. I'm getting goosebumps all over me. Why? Because that is power. That in itself is why I feel indestructible. Not that I can't be. Hey, I mean, this body will go down in a second. But me as a person, my mental strength, my emotional strength, and that is unmatched. And you can be that powerful too. But how trauma helps us with that. Trauma helps us understand that these things are teaching us some of the hardest lessons to look at ourselves and to say, you know what? This isn't about me. No matter what happens, no matter what happens to us, it is not about me as a person. It is about the understanding of who we are is how we're going to grow. That is what brings us into growth. That is what brings us into being who we are. Because without love is why we are full of anger. It is without love is why we are judgmental, why we do not love, and why we shun and judge other people. If you are in a state of trauma because and anger and suffering because of your childhood, it is because you have removed yourself from this idea of love. And this is why it hurts. This is why many of us cannot see who we are, is because we have engulfed ourselves in the illusion that this story has become us, when really we have to understand that this story is meant to make us create a whole new story. And how wonderful is that, right? We're here to experience life, right? Each one of us, me, Caleb, you guys, everybody, we're here to experience. Right now, you are experiencing something. You are experiencing knowledge. You are experiencing consciousness, how to grow into something greater than you ever thought possible. But in order to do that, you have to see another perspective. You have to see the other perspective and maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 other perspectives of that lesson. And that's the hardest thing, because we don't want to see it, right? We don't want to see another perspective. We don't want to hear it, right? We want to be victimized by our experiences. We want to be victimized by our experiences because that gives us attention, right? How many times do you see someone, and I see it all the time, that people, we call them the Debbie Downers, right? We call them, whatever we want to call them, the Nancy, what's the other one? Nancy something, I can't remember. But how many of us, we see these people that constantly say the same story or constantly have nothing, as we call it, the negative people, right? Negative Nancy, that's it. And that we see that people are always repeating the same story because they refuse to see any other perspective than their own. They want to be in that mode because, hey, if I say it, I'm down and and this hurts me, then I get the attention I want. I'm looking for love. I'm looking for acceptance. I'm looking to be healed from this pain. And instead of working through it, I'd rather make this my story so people feel sorry for me and it keeps the cycle going. Wouldn't you rather get over that type of experience? Wouldn't you rather put that away and actually find real love and self-love and find real strength and not just constantly repeating this? I know so many of you, when you hear what I'm saying, you right away want to instantly reject it. And that's because the ego says, nope, I don't want to hear it because I get loved this way, and she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand what I went through because, I'm in pain and this person did this to me. Oh, I very much understand what you guys are going through. This is my business. This is my life. I have gone through many of the same things that many of you have gone through. I have watched and cried. I've been a part of so many things in my life when it comes to things like this. That is why I do what I do. But so imagine if you can get out of that mindset of actually wanting to push back that and say, you know what? There's so many possibilities. There's so many things I can be because of this experience of being in trauma, because of my child. If I can go back and understand what it was I was experiencing and heal that child, imagine you no longer feeling like an adult. Imagine that, okay? I play with pound puppies. I still sleep around pound puppies. And people look at me and say, Miss Raina, you're 43 years old. Why do you have those things? And even my mom was like, okay, Miss Raina, aren't you a little old for that? Why? Why should I be too old to color my hair? And I know I'm letting my grays grow out right now, but why? The child inside, is life meant to be so strict and so boring when you're an adult that it's not fun anymore? No, because an old soul, or I should say an ancient soul, old souls don't know this yet, but an ancient soul, a conscious soul, realizes that life is meant to be fun. We are supposed to be having fun here, people. We are supposed to be experiencing life. But in order to learn those lessons, we have to go through trauma. In order to realize that we're meant to have fun here and experience life, and who cares? That is what it brings me to. That is what it brings you to. Go through life, help us understand the infinite possibilities of everything that we experience. Who else can I be besides this story? So who else can you be besides the story that you're constantly being? If you cannot be anything more than the story that you're being, well, it's going to be a long life for you. But if you can find a way to work through it, and if you need the help, if you need to go through it with somebody, if you can find a way to re-experience it and learn from it and get through it, you will be one of the most powerful beings in the universe. And yes, I say universe, because you will be unstoppable. Nothing will bother you. And that's why we have to look at these things this way. You know, a lot of us who have trauma experiencing, we clump together because, hey, oh my God, you're in pain. Hey, I'm in pain. Oh, you like sports. I like sports. Oh, you like race cars. I like race cars. We tend to click together to people who we are experiencing with who we are, because that makes us feel like I'm not the only one. But I don't care who you are. Whether it's been childhood trauma, teenage trauma, adult trauma, every single one of us has experienced some form of trauma. Every single one of us. There is not a soul on this earth that has not experienced some type of trauma. Some may seem like they're, that they have a silver spoon and they've gotten everything and that, but you don't know what they've gone through. Everyone here is to learn, and everyone's path is different. Everyone's way is different, and we have to understand. And that is why I listen to people. That is why I talk to people. That's why I'm so happy that so many people was brave enough to share with me what they were experiencing and what their childhood issues were. Because at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, you know what? Everybody has something to say. And if you can turn that way and you can, relating to people is wonderful in a way, because it helps you realize that, hey, I'm not alone. But don't become those stories. Don't become attached to the ideas that, hey, these are the only people that are going to understand me. I have so many friends that are different in every way. And I say that loosely. And that I have very selective close friends, but I have a lot of people that I know and a lot of friends that have so many different paths, so many different ways, and I don't connect and bond in those ways of trauma with them, because we are so much more than that. We can relate to other people in different ways. I have people that are artsy. I have people that are sporty. I have people that are, that like to read books. I have people that are athletic. I have people that have, that deal in one field and that, because that helps you bring you to an understanding that these things are different. And so when people start to share their trauma and they start to attach to other people constantly, that usually becomes the stories, and you cannot get out of it. And this is why we look at it. We look at childhood trauma, and we have to understand that it's the past. It doesn't exist anymore. We look at it and we say, well, if I'm looking for love, and I'm looking for true love, which is self-love, because all around us is love. Everything is love. But we don't see that because of our limited perception. If I want to experience the things like we call happiness and love and relationships, and if I truly want those, then we have to release the victim inside of us. We have to work through these issues. We have to face these issues. And no matter how much you think that you can't get through it, you are capable of it. But if you choose, and let me tell you, this is a choice. I know many of you are going to disagree with it, but I'm telling you, this is a choice that if you have, if you choose every single day to feel helpless, if you choose every day to constantly tell people your story so that people feel sorry for you, you will be that story for the rest of your life. So it's a choice for us to be able to do that. Hold on, Matt. Hold on one second. We have a question. Matt would like to recommend for healing yourself and exercise. Okay, so we have a question that says they would like to know what you would recommend for healing yourself and for your trauma exercises for getting past it. All right, actually, Matt, I will reach out to you after the show because we only have actually the show's ending right now, but I will reach out to you as soon as the show is over and we will talk about it. Okay, because that is a whole different ball game and we can go on for another hour for that. But I thank you for your question and just give me a few minutes. So anyways, guys, that is our show, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Just remember that, guys, it is a choice, and you guys are so much stronger than you think. You guys can get through this. I got through it. I got through some of the darkest trauma. I overcame some of the hardest mental health challenges that are out there, and if I can do it, I know you guys can do it. All right? So, all right, guys, if you want to follow us on our Facebook at Transcendental Transformation. YouTube channel is the same. Visit our website, soulandspiritguide.com. Make sure you guys sign up for the newsletter to receive special hidden shows, VIP access to the website, and special guest offers when we have guests. If you guys have any questions, email us at transcendentaltransformations, that's plural, at gmail.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please pass along our show to other people that you might think. That's the only way we're going to grow and share consciousness together. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities, our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.